Thank you so much for joining us. Na karibuni sana. Yeah, so I would like us to start our session for today. As we said, kindly let's make it interactive. Yesterday we had a very interactive session, and I really want to welcome you again and to encourage you to, share your thoughts even as we do the presentation. There's no one who's an expert in these things, in everything. We all have some level of knowledge, and there's always something you can contribute and to these discussions. So I encourage you to share your thoughts, your comments. I hope today we will have more time to even interact more than yesterday. But let's keep the discussion going. So for those who are not here yesterday, I will do a very quick wrap up. What we did, we started by looking at the perspectives that commonly define our fundraising work. And the key takeaways was that fundraising is a very noble responsibility. There's joy in fundraising, and therefore we need to do it with a lot of passion and to have the right attitude, knowing that it's a noble responsibility that helps us to achieve our mission. That helps even the donors to be able to achieve their mission, to be able to, contribute to something that is bigger than them. So it's a shared responsibility. We discussed that. It's an integral part of the organization. And if you want to be successful in your fundraising, you need to make it, a culture within your organization for people to participate and also to give. We talked quite a lot around that. But the key takeaway is, taking it positively is a noble responsibility. It's something that is, very worthwhile in your work. Then we looked at some of the things that we need to put in place to have a good fundraising infrastructure. We talked about, being clear on why you should be funded. In understanding that donors fund the why. It's the reason behind what you are doing. So it's not so much of what you are doing, but what motivates you, what inspires you. And that's why we talked about having a very clear, mission and having a justification, right? Putting together like what I was calling a case for support. Why should someone spend their money to fund you? So having that in place is very important to direct you your fundraising work. So that's the starting point. And then after that, we want to be able to map out your donors and be able to identify the donors that are likely to fund you. And we looked at three main characteristics or what you need to look out for. You need to look out for donors who have had any interactions or linkages with. You need to look for donors who are interested in your work, and for people who also have the ability. And when you talk of donors, we're looking at donors not just as institutions, but we're looking at donors as either individuals, could be corporates, could be bilateral donors, could be big institutions, but we are looking at donors as being very broad. But the key thing is we want to apply to donors or to identify donors and map them and then strategize on how we are going to get them to fund our work. So it's not just about, responding to calls for proposals and writing, but really being very strategic with our work. Then we looked at, once we have identified who are your potential donors, then you want to take the next step of cultivating relationships. And this is all saying, this is the core, this is the core of your work as a fundraiser. This is where you need to spend a lot of time cultivating relationships. And we'll be looking at some of the we looked at some of the strategies we can use, but I'm sure today we'll be also interacting with more and more of these strategies. So yesterday we were identifying prospects, and I just wanted to share with you this. I know it's a bit theoretical, but theory is also important for us to understand. It helps us in our strategic thinking. So at the base of this pyramid is the prospects. Prospects are very many, they are out there. It's the pool of projects at the lowest level of what we call the donor pyramid. So like you were saying, we want to identify prospects from this whole pool and make them donors. And they become the first donors to your organization. So we remember when I was saying that you need to have a donor database. Your donor database should be able to even identify and know at what level is this donor. You need to be able to classify your donors in the different categories. And it's important because this helps you in your strategic approaches in terms of how do you approach them, what kind of communications channels do you use, and all that. So at the base, we have the many prospects. Like I was saying, have an exercise with your board members, with your teams, identify the prospects, use the criteria that we used yesterday for those who missed. I've summarized it. Is that you look at the linkages, the interest, and the abilities, but I'll share the recording for you to get to understand exactly how you apply it. So you want to move them to become your first donors, first-time donors. And at this point, you can use different strategies. It's what we are going to be talking about. You can have the storytelling in your social media account. That one is not really targeting anyone, but you're trying to get people to know your story. You're increasing your visibility. And like I was saying, you then find maybe someone engages with what you do. Then this is someone who is interested in what we do. And then you want to now put a strategy of pursuing them. So you can use different approaches like social media, the internet, mass media, newsletters, trying to sift through to be able to see who is interested in your work. But once people become your donors, then you want to be more personalized. And as they go up the levels, you become more and more personal in terms of how you communicate with them. So like I was saying, when you're thinking of prospects, remember every donor is a prospect for the higher level. And this is what I was trying to explain. So someone gave you maybe once, donated some money to your organization, that's a first-time donor. But you do not forget about them. We want to retain them. And we also want to cultivate them to become a repeat donor, to the point that now from repeat donors, we move them to what we call the major gifts. Now, there's no definition of what amount of money or what amount of donation can be classified as major gift, what is little. It all depends with your organization. So you could define what does it mean what is a major gift to you? Because for an organization, for example, for a big organization, 1 million could be very low amount of money, but for another small organization, a grassroots, 1 million could be a major gift. So it really depends on you and you determining what is major to you. But the key thing of this is then you're able to, to have different strategies depending on the level of giving, depending on the donor and how much they give, and not so much how much it's really putting them in different categories, because again, you can't have the same strategies for everyone. So I just wanted you to have this in mind. From major gifts, we usually talk of capital gifts. Capital gifts is where maybe a donor comes and helps you to build a school. That's a huge gift. So by the time someone is at this level, the only way you can communicate with such a person is really having meetings. That very personalized contact. You don't communicate anything through just, like newsletters like everyone else. You want to make it very personalized and for them to feel they are really appreciated, to the point where we get to what we call the planned giving. This one is the highest level in terms of donor pyramids, the highest level of giving. And I'm not sure how common it is in Kenya, I'm not very familiar, but it's where someone decides at the point of death, maybe they want to leave their property or this amount of money to be donated to this charitable organization. So that is the highest level of giving. But basically the key thing here is to just show you that you need to be able to classify your donors. It may not fall exactly under this category the way it is, but this just gives you a general idea, categorize them, and each see what works for you, who are the people that we need to have one-on-one meetings with them, who are the people we are supposed to be. We can do a phone call, we can do an email, and as they become serious donors, or they become, they go higher they're under, you make it very personalized. These are people you want to even communicate to them before. For example, if you have a report, you don't even want them to get the report or a newsletter with the rest of the teams. You want even to ask for their feedback. So they become like really, really part of your organization. And remember, all this at the end of the day is about building relationships. So it's you're building relationship because you want to keep moving people from one point to another. And remember also the key thing that we talked about yesterday. This building relationship is like your deposit. So you want to, by the time you are writing a proposal to someone, by the time you're approaching someone to ask for an amount of funding, you have a relationship with them. You have been depositing, and now by the time you're going, it's time for you to withdraw. Don't go to withdraw when there has been no much communication. I think that is what I wanted to share and try to summarize. So we'll have different strategies for soliciting, but I don't want to go so much into this. I know we are going to have Charity who will give us very specific strategies. These are very general on how you can be more innovative in terms of your solicitation strategies in fundraising, general fundraising strategies. But just to mention, one of the other things that we need to make sure we have in place, or when you're soliciting, is to be very specific on our asks. So for example, you want to maybe build a school. So you have to be very strategic in terms of if you identify one person who is interested or a donor who is interested, then when you're asking, if you have already been, first of all, cultivating the relationship, by the time you're going to ask, don't make it very general. You want to ask a very specific amount. So you even want, because you already know this person, you already know their capacity. They can build for you maybe 2 classes without struggles. So by the time you're going, you're telling them, kindly help us to build these 2 classes, and this is the cost associated to it, rather than we are building a school. And don't make it very overwhelming. Not unless build for that funder to do a building is also possible. So being very specific is very important. Communicating very specifically to the donor what exactly you want. Even when you do grant proposals, we are trying to be very, very specific. And for those who have gone through my classes, specificity is the key thing here. We want to do something, you want to be very clear how much money. In fact, that's why they ask for a budget. How much money do you want to do what? So the same thing, even if it's a donor who you're not necessarily asking for a proposal, but you have to be very clear in terms of your ask. And I want to encourage people to just contribute to this discussion. Please give me your ideas about the ask. How do you ask? How do you solicit for funds? So let's keep the chat going as I share these last slides. About now, once the last bit of the fundraising cycle, basically what we have been looking at is the acknowledging of donors and managing them. Like we say, the most important thing in this whole idea is being able to cultivate relationships so that then even after they fund, they remain as part of the organization. You retain them. We have said that acquiring new donors is very expensive. It's easier to actually retain them. So some of the things that you do is recognizing donors, acknowledging what they do. No matter how little someone contributes to your organization, make sure you recognize them, but ensure that you recognize them in a manner that is also commensurate to what they like, or it's something that they are okay with, but also depending on what commensurate to the giving. If someone donates a building, how you recognize them is different from how you recognize someone who maybe bought the school lunch or something. So those are some of the things to think about. Sharing your impact stories, your annual reports, engaging them like we said yesterday. I think we talked about all this. Gift acceptance policy, just being clear on who can give, from what kind of money, what kind of donors are you dealing with, who aligns really with your values, being clear how gifts are used in your organization, how you recognize donors. So that's also very important as a retention strategy. And so in summary, we want to be very consistent and to have a lot of warm communication with our donors. We want to create more stories of our work, show impact, have a lot of photos and videos, and invite our donors to engage in our work. And with that, I want to believe Charity Njuguna, yes, I can now see your name. Charity Njuguna is with us. Charity was very kind to us, or she's very kind to us. She agreed to come and share with us their experiences. I don't want to water down her introduction, so I'll allow her to introduce herself. But Charity, I just want to really appreciate you on behalf of this team. We were here yesterday. We wished you could have joined us, but it's okay. We are really grateful that you're able to join us today. And
yes.
for some reason today the team is a bit quiet. Yesterday we were very active. I don't know what is happening. Anyway, I hope we will pick up. Today people are a bit quiet. Kindly encourage you to just drop your points, your ideas, your thoughts, your comments on the chat. But at this juncture, I really want to encourage to welcome our very own Charity Juguna from tuiFund. Let's learn, let's share the ideas, let's also engage her. So karibu sana Charity, without much ado, thank you so much, and karibu sana, and you can take it from here.
Maybe I can make an introduction about myself.
Yes.
I'm actually only 2 years old in the fundraising industry, okay. But before that, I worked in advertising. So by profession, I am a marketer, I'm a brand builder, and I'm a strategist. So I had the pleasure or luck and fortune to work with some of the biggest fundraising agencies, advertising agencies in the country. And from there, I was able to learn a lot that now puts me in a position to be able to support fundraising teams and with strategy and communication. So currently I work for an organization called tuiFund. And can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So currently I work with an organization called tuiFund, and you can see two logos on that PowerPoint, tuiFund and Layer Client Services. So I sit in both companies, and maybe I'll try explain how. So tuiFund and Layer Client Services are related in the way that tuiFund, which is a year old now, is a brainchild of Layer Client Services. So Layer Client Services is a fundraising agency that has been in operation for 7 years. So for 7 years, this company has been able to raise money in the millions for over 40 projects, some of which are for profit, some of which are commercial, like commercial events, concerts, sporting activities, and so on. But on the nonprofit side, I think one of the biggest projects the company has been able to handle was, for example, the Beyond Zero half marathon. Sorry, Pauline, do you mind muting your mic? Sorry, I think we can all mute our mics. I can't hear myself. So, as I was saying, tuiFund is a brainchild of these experiences and this very extensive portfolio that Layer Client Services has. And so last year, the founding team at Layer Client Services decided to put together a technology solution that makes the services we give as Layer Client Services more accessible to grassroots organizations, NGOs without big budgets, CBOs, CSOs, and anyone really who's trying to raise money for an impact foundation. So the photo you can see at the bottom of our screen is from Emarika Foundation, which is an NGO in Kilifi. So this has in the past been a Layer Client Service client, and is currently also a tuiFund, member of the tuiFund platform. So they're currently using tuiFund to raise money. So what does tuiFund do? So tuiFund does three things. At the core of the business is the tech service, which is a matchmaking platform where you come and create your profile as an organization, populate your active projects, we'll verify that you exist so that weed out bad characters and cons, which are quite popular. And from there, you can now start receiving matches to grants and active programs, some corporate sponsors who we know. So that's what we do. So you get these matches straight to your inbox. The second thing that we do is that we map through the information put on our platform by NGOs and nonprofits such as yourself. We are able to map out community partnerships for people who might be interested. For example, we engage some corporates, maybe I should have mentioned Layer Client Service is very big on corporate fundraising and corporate sponsorship. And so we try to bring that experience into tuiFund by helping corporates map out their CSR, their community partners, and so on. So our website is tuifund.com. You can ask me a few questions now on the chat or later, but I think that's enough as an introduction. So when Lucy asked me to come and talk a little bit about fundraising, I was sort of intimidated because Lucy's actually been running a very successful grant program. And as I said, I'm a junior in this industry, but maybe I might give points that have been mentioned by Lucy, but at the back of your mind, let us I challenge you to think about your nonprofit as a commercial business when it comes to connecting with people and doing a few things that you'll see in the following slides. So what we're going to cover today is basically how organizations can tap into where their audience is, leverage technology, have better relationships with donors, increase their own exposure and engagement, but keeping in mind the 3 C's of fundraising. So the 3 C's of fundraising vary for a few people. Some people will tell you it's content, I don't know, something and something, but the way I see it and what we do in our organization, the 3 C's to us are connection, commitment, and capacity. So that is what we're going to use as our guiding point today. So I think the first thing I want to tackle is how to connect better in order to fundraise better. And basically, what does connection mean? I mean, there are a lot of definitions, but in this case, we look at connection for our organizations as how we interact with our past, present, and future donors. Remember that anytime you interact with someone that knows about your organization or that you'd like to know about your organization or who has known about your organization, this relationship and interaction might affect how you relate in the future and might actually pay out in the future in terms of a donation, in terms of a partnership, in terms of a referral. So either way, my point here is to how to put your best foot forward. So I've gotten a bit of what Lucy was talking about at the beginning of this session. So this might be a repetition, but I'd like to draw your attention to the top right of my slide, where I highlight a 2018 survey by an organization in the States called RKD, which is a startup, it's an accelerator for nonprofits. They have things like that outside. It's so impressive. An accelerator for nonprofits. So they did this survey where they looked at donor giving in December 2018. Remember, December is a very popular time for donations through crowdfunding, through almost all channels. It's quite popular. And so this was in comparison to the previous year, 2017. So they were asking donors, why they gave less, because the statistics indicated that 2018 saw a drop in donations. So 46% said they felt less connection to what they were being told to donate to. 37% received too many requests. 31% felt like other things were better to put money into. 29% simply weren't motivated. They got the message, but they weren't motivated to do what RKD was telling them to. And 27% felt like what they were donating to wasn't that urgent or wasn't that consequential. So they said maybe next time. So as we look at this survey, we can come up with a few tips for how to manage these situations, because I feel like if you are an organization which engages your donors periodically, you might have had some of these excuses, and and these are very popular ones. So I think just a tip for how to craft your direct messages to donor better. So Lucy has covered this, but I can add a few things. Number one, don't be generic. The fact that we're both saying it is because it's popular. And as a fundraising agency, as Leah, we come across so many proposals that are sent to us and we're told, you know, help us raise money. We have this project, beautiful project, very impactful, but the proposal that you've been putting forward to clients has been failing. And most of the time it's because it's so generic. Even from just a cover slide is our proposal to raise money for our school or for our project. There's no personalization. And Lucy mentioned a few of these few things, so I won't belabor the point, but being generic always works against you. Create segments. You cannot, as much as you're raising for this one project, for example, let me take an example of our friends in Marika Foundation and use an example of their project. So they have been raising money for their scholarships. They take the underserved children in Kilifi to school, and they've done a pretty good job at that. It's a program that has been running for years. And I'll take it as an example, not to say that they're doing anything wrong, but just to give an example. So when you're raising money for such a project, create segments. You cannot communicate to your corporate donor or corporate sponsor the same way you'd communicate to an international NGO, which would potentially fund you. You cannot communicate the same to people on social media who you'd like crowdsourcing from. So it's very important to know exactly who you're talking to. That way your efforts to pass your message across doesn't fall through the cracks. Secondly, understand their point of view. Point of view meaning put yourself in their shoes. And sometimes this means, for example, let me take a corporate, example as well. So sometimes you'd want a certain corporate to give you 5 million for a project, and you find them giving 1 million, but you know this corporate has money. But what you did is not understand their point of view. So maybe this corporate has a foundation that gives out 1 million shillings, but maybe the same corporate has a program under one of their business units like SMEs, and what they'd like to do with that under the business unit for that year is put more money into women-led projects. So you need to understand your donor or your target audience in that sense. If I talk to this one from this department, I might get 50,000. If I talk to this one from this department, I might get 1 million shillings. So this comes, understanding your donor point of view comes with research. Try your best to understand where they're coming from. Try their best to know what their own objectives for the year are, and find a way to connect the two. If I'm raising money through a golf event, for example, or if maybe I want to raise money through a golf event, and we get a lot of these requests, but my question, and you're expecting this much from this bank or from this, fertilizer company or from this microfinance. But maybe this microfinance has also been funding other golf events. You need to understand the motivation behind why someone would give you money. Sometimes they just want the commercial benefits that come with supporting your project. Sometimes they're going to relate with the actual work you're doing, maybe with women, with children, maybe that's what makes sense to them. So it says you work as someone who's raising money to understand their point of view. Thirdly, motivate your donors. What this means is just as simple as it sounds. Is it a thank you letter? That's the starting point. That's the most basic thing you can do. And I hope we all do that. But on the other side, it's giving them reports, giving them personalized reports. So I'll write to Lucy and tell her, Lucy, thank you for your contribution of 500,000 shillings. What that 500,000 shillings did is it helped us put 3 children through university. And their names are this and this, and this is what they are studying. Some of them even hope to continue into masters. Will you be able to support so and so and so into taking their academic journey further? Motivating your donors help them feel like forces them to have some buy-in or convinces them to buy into your project for longer. You mentioned donor retention. This is one of the very important ways to increase your donor retention. They give you money once, usiwaachilie. Engage them, engage them, engage them. Let them know what you're doing. Let them know exactly what their funds are doing and what their next 1,000 shilling or 2,000 shillings or 100,000 shillings can do for your mission. Lastly, know your channels. Are you on social media? Who do you talk to on social media? Are you on newsletter? Who do you talk to through there? Who do you talk through LinkedIn? I'll take an example of our organization, tuiFund. So as I mentioned, we serve both nonprofits and we also serve donors like corporates and philanthropists. So when we are talking and we have all these segmented communications. So when you see us posting on LinkedIn, most of the time when you're posting on LinkedIn, we are trying to communicate to the corporates that are there because we know the decision makers, the brand managers, the heads of foundations are there. But when you're talking on social media, on Twitter, for example, we are talking to the masses. We want to raise awareness for something. So once you understand your channel and the performance indicator for that channel, so you know how to talk to people. So do you want to post on Instagram so that more people can be empathetic? That's good. Do you want to post on LinkedIn so that this and that specific person sees? That's good. Do you want to post on Facebook for it to get as many people behind your cause as possible? That's a good one. But know your channels. That's the way, these are the 4 tips I can give to navigate this survey, the results of this survey by RKD. Secondly, craft your indirect messages better. So initially we talked about direct messages, like how to interact with specific donors. But now this is your indirect messages. And indirect messages are better because I assure you that you do not know all your donors. Your donor could be someone you've never thought about, just their idol or dormant on your Instagram following, for example, or someone you've never even come across who might land on your website from, I don't know, Canada or South Africa. So that's the power of indirect messages. They shape how the public sees you, and you never know when the public could be consequential to your cause. So how to craft indirect messages better? Now, my thing on this point is just storytelling. Telling your story is better. What does this mean? And how can you do this? And why is this important? Storytelling builds transparency. When people are able to understand and see what you do, they're able to trust you more, as opposed to an NGO or a CBO in Nairobi. No one has ever heard of you. Your Facebook page is dormant. Maybe if I land on it, I don't know if you have done any work since 2019, your last post, or your website looks outdated, and you're not updating about your current projects. That might affect the transparency. It's not something most of us like to hear, but it's the truth. Secondly, storytelling humanizes the organization. If I want to talk about my NGO raises money for children, or my NGO employs university children as volunteers to help educate and fill the gap in, schools in the slums, for example. Telling these stories is what makes it more powerful. me just telling you this by word of mouth is good, but if you're able to see it and reflect somewhere, you can always come and revisit. It humanizes the organization and what you do. It makes someone wants to connect with your organization. And that brings me to point 3. Storytelling builds emotion. And when I talk about storytelling, it's not just about telling an emotional story about the people you work with and how you work. It's also about giving people statistics and updates. So, and one of my favorite people, and I think they're doing a very good job, is Food for Education. This is one of the fastest growing nonprofit or social enterprises in Kenya, actually in Africa. And this has been consequential for them. Storytelling has been very consequential to them. Every day they update the world, the public, about how many people, how many children they fed over the last week. What did this mean? Did it mean that 20% more children came to school? Did it mean that we are building more kitchens? Like everywhere you look on their website, on their social media pages, they are telling you very specifically, if you spend 1 shilling, it results in $9. I mean, if you spend $1, it results in $9 in terms of school enrollment and in terms of, you know, they're able to demonstrate their return on your donation. They are doing a very good job with video content and so on. I understand that it's a much bigger company, non-profit than most of us are, but it's a challenge for each and every one of us. Try and tell your stories better. And the beauty is, you don't have to have a whole team to do this. We've sat in enough, or maybe you've heard enough about AI, and ChatGPT, and Google now has their called Bard, which is one of my favorites. But the beauty is, you don't have to be a pro to tell your story better. And maybe I can give an example of one of the profiles that are on our platform. It's who we are highlighting this week. So Malkia, Pads, I'm not speaking on you, it's just that you're the ones we are highlighting this week. So for example, they've told their story, they're giving a summary of what the organization does. But is there a way to improve this? Let's see. So we can copy this and make it more emotive. This is Bard. It's like ChatGPT, but it's for Google, which I prefer. And I'll tell Bard something like, improve this text to attract potential donors. Potential donors. And I paste the text there. And let's see what it does for us. So, oh gosh, do I have internet? Yes, I do. So as it generates that, we're going to get back to that. As it generates that, just give me a second.
Right, as we give Charity a minute, Charity, let us know when you're back. But as you can see how practical, you know, some of the ideas that Charity is sharing are very practical. The use of AI, I think this is actually one of the topics I also wanted us to cover, but I'm glad that Charity has brought it up. We realize that we have so many tools right now as a result of AI, or what we're calling the generative AI. You can ask them for any kind of idea, you know. Personally, for example, in my proposal writing, I do a lot of, as I do proposals, which is part of fundraising, I actually use a lot of AI to give me ideas at times to help me, like you've seen what she was doing. So you want to improve your profile, you actually give it the instruction, you know, refine this for me. You give, they're called prompts. Refine this section for me. You can ask, make this shorter or summarize this write up for me. Maybe you've just been asked by someone, share with us your capacity statement. So generative AI, which is what Charity is trying to show us, it can really help us in our work. It can help us to be able to do a lot of things in our storytelling. You can write a story in your own way, and then because you want it to be more, you know, maybe more juicy, you actually come and put it on such a platform and gives you a very well-structured and a juicy story. So there's a lot. I actually think, Charity, that's a session we should do, but I'm so glad you brought it up. But we should actually probably do even much more in terms of generative AI. Charity, are you back? Once you're back, just carry on.
Yes, I'm back. Great. So, yeah. So let's say if it improved the text, it actually puts it into bullet points and even gives us suggestions like, you know, how to present, you know, your donation will help us with this, this, and this, and even tells you what it changed and what to consider in the future. So that's the beauty of technology when it comes to storytelling. My third tip comes to my favorite thing, which we do very well. Allow your donors to interact with each other and also to interact with their work. Most people will say this is a budget-intensive activity. Activations and events are quite expensive, but you're allowed to think out of the box. You'd be surprised that your budget can go a long way. Is it as simple as inviting donors to your home, for example, to meet the kids? Is it as simple as, you know, telling, you know, it's December, come to our children's home, come to our offices, let's share lunch as we tell you our plans for the next year. That's a very highly impactful event. Secondly, meet your donors where they are. And this is why golf events, for example, are very popular. So, for example, that photo was from the Samburu Girls Rescue Center charity golf and dinner. So that's why golf events are very popular, because most of the time, the people who would ordinarily support charity work, you'd probably find them on the golf course due to their status and due to the nature of their work. So you'd find that this is very popular, but I'd also challenge you. If, for example, you're aiming for crowdsourcing, and I can give an example of an event we did for one of the Rotary clubs that are raising money for a project they have for mental health. For example, they created a bikeathon, and a bikeathon isn't as expensive as a marathon. You say, Lucy, I tell you, I'm putting up a poster and raising money for mental health, and it's a bikeathon, meaning you can come with your children, you can come with your friends because it's fun. You know, you have your bike, just pay 1,000 bob, 100 will go into paying Karura for the day, and then the 900 shillings will be contributed to our cause. That's how, those are the things I want to challenge you to think about when you start thinking about events. You might get a headache, but there are many, many ideas that you can do. And, you know, brings me to my third point, create an experience. Interacting with the children in your children's home is an experience. Coming to meet your staff members in your offices for lunch is an experience. Yeah, or go further and choose to educate. Invite a professional, maybe, for example, Samburu Girls Center was raising money to continue rescuing girls from harmful cultural practices like beating and so on. If you want to take the angle of educating, I'd challenge you, you know, let's do a webinar that's free. Maybe you might need to pay, I don't know, 10,000 for Zoom Premium. Have a webinar, invite someone, a cultural expert, to tell you more about how they're helping their communities come out from harmful practices. That will be educating. It will be important to the donor, and it will also continue to position you as a thought leader, such that when someone thinks about rescuing girls in Samburu, remember that Lucy, for example, you held a webinar, a free one, and people and a cultural expert from Samburu was able to tell you exactly what Saving These Girls does. That is more impactful than reading it in a letter, for example. The second C we mentioned is capacity. So when I mention capacity, some people might mean money, employees, and so on. But capacity simply means the ability to do whatever it is you want to do. So for you as a nonprofit, it means the ability for you to reach your mission. So it is whatever you need to get you from zero to achieving your mission. And I promise I won't talk about money. I'll talk about everything else but money, because I want challenges to improve our capacity with whatever we have in the bank. So tip number one, leverage data. You can't improve on something you don't track. And the two main things that you would be interested in tracking is your communication efforts and your donor activities. So for example, when it comes to communication, what is your click-through rate? For example, your click-through rate, it's how many pages or how many sections you visited in a website. If it's high, that means your content and your storytelling is really good. If it's low, it means you need to improve on what's there on your homepage. Yeah. Secondly, website visits, or how long someone spends on your website. If you're told an average website session is 56 seconds, that means someone just opens, looks at the homepage, and isn't convinced or compelled to look at anything else on your website. Your open rate. When you send a newsletter, how often do you check who opens it? If it's 20% open rate, that's amazing, because that's our industry benchmark for newsletters. You're doing well. If it's low, check who it is that are not, who is not opening, because your newsletter provider gives you that kind of data. Yeah. Tracking historical data, donor data. We mentioned about the donor retention rate. If last year we had a fundraiser, for example, and 20 people gave us money, and this year we're fundraising for the same cause and 15 people gave us money, that means our donor retention is 75%, which is not bad. But being conscious of these numbers helps you know where to put your time, effort, messaging into. Cost of acquisition, it's my favorite. It's a very big one when it comes to marketing, but you can also make it big in fundraising. And I'll give you an example. Actually, cost of acquisition means how much you spend to get someone or to get a result. In this point, or in this case of fundraising, it's how much do you spend to get 1,000 shillings or 100,000, or to get one new donor for your organization. And I'll give you an example of things that I've been seeing. So on one hand, I'll give you Meksonko. Meksonko is a philanthropist in his own right, in his own way. So when Mike Sonko posts an Instagram stories and said, oh, guys, I met this woman, she runs a children's home in, South Sea. And for the last 1 week, she hasn't been able to give the children in her home food. Guys, can we help her? And then he puts a pay bill. And in 10 minutes, the pay bill is full. On the other hand, there's a whole gala dinner, for example. And, we've spent so much on the DJ, on entertainment, on the red carpet, and it gives us the same amount of money that this guy raised in 1 hour. So that is your cost of acquisition. Here, maybe you spend 5,000 bob a plate to attract a donor. On this hand, this one spent nothing. So being cautious about your fundraising activities, how much they cost you and how much they give in return. That gives you your fundraising ROI and also gives you your cost of acquisition. So when it comes to data, the statistics aren't very exciting. For example, There is a study that was done by the North Carolina State University that reported, yes, NGOs are collecting data, nonprofits are gathering data, but only 5% use it for daily decision making. And this is in the US. I don't know if our data behavior is better or worse, but I'll leave that to you to, draw your own conclusion. 90% of people have data, only 5% use it for decision making. That's your challenge. And then secondly, leverage tech. When you talk about capacity, and if you look at what you have and your team and the resources you have, is there a way of getting more or doing more with less? This is not bootstrapping, but it's leveraging something else like a software or tech. For example, tuiFund, which is what we do. Yeah. So as a nonprofit leader, should you really be spending 2 hours a day checking online, Googling for grant opportunities and open programs? Yes, I understand that maybe you don't have a dedicated fundraising officer. Maybe you don't have a fundraising team, but your work and your time and your effort is needed elsewhere. So this is where you see the gaps that you have in your resources and you see if you can bridge them somehow. For example, the photo you can see there is an NGO from Molo, one of the many organizations on tuiFund, and they have active projects on healthcare, especially for the elderly. So, and they're using tuiFund to constantly, every day, if there's a new grant about healthcare and the elderly, they'll find it on their inbox. If there's an open program, we are giving 250,000 for people with programs and this and this and this, they will find it in their inbox without having or needing to spend hours going through page 1 to 60 on Google search. Thirdly, the easiest and most effective way of building your capacity is collaboration. And this is my favorite thing because across both of the organizations that I've mentioned, tuiFund and Layer Client Services, partnerships is the core, one of our strongest pillars. What you can't do alone, someone else might. But when you combine together, it becomes beneficial for the both of you. So I have 4 challenges for you. Think about who you can co-create a program with. I'll give an example of maybe you have, actually, let me give a real life example that I came across last week. So there's this society, an NGO that runs sports programs in the slum areas. And they needed money and they need to keep running these sports programs and helping their talented children there be more trained and be more skilled in their sports. So what they did is they approached a big company and told them, you have this current campaign, for example. You have this current campaign called tuiFund, whose whole objective is about helping each other and supporting each other. We have this idea and this very strong proposal about how we can extend your tuiFund campaign into the work we are doing. And that got the money. So think about, instead of being very rigid with the programs that you want to do, and instead of digging your heels in, think about who you can co-create a program with. Is it an international NGO? Can you co-create something with them that fills a gap for them, that helps you achieve your mission? Think about it that way. Secondly, co-create events. So I might have, I'm an NGO. For example, I can give an example of a nonprofit in Kibera that has a community hall. They were built 4 years ago by a donor. And in this community hall, children are able to come practice their talents and so on. So for example, if I want to do a fundraising, like an event, and I don't have the money to hire a ground or hire a venue, I'd be able to approach this NGO and tell them, you have this space, let's find a way where allow me to use it and maybe you can have your own agenda and I can have my own agenda, and we can be able to reach the same people and meet both our goals. Do cross communication. Cross communication means, for example, Lucy, you had this workshop, you as Real-Time Insights, me from tuiFund. If I was to take your content and post it on my newsletter for the month, that is cross communication. I'll still post my newsletter and I'll still meet my objectives with my newsletter, but you'll be able to also benefit from the communication I've put about you on our newsletter. Of course, you have to be cautious about data rules and privacy settings, but these are things you can think about and are very easy to execute if done the right way. Fourthly, consider a joint fundraising campaign. So I see the Giving Tuesday is quite popular, and you're given support from the Giving Tuesday organization, the international organization. Think about it that way. How can you leverage, or how can you create a campaign that benefits you and another NGO so that you split the resources, or so that you can reach the same people, so that you can engage the same audience? So that is my last tip about capacity, improving your capacity to fundraise better. The last thing was about commitment, but I don't doubt anyone's commitment to their own cause here. I mean, if you're here after hours learning more and, networking and thinking about our organizations, then I don't need to touch on commitment. That one, everyone gets a tick. So that's it for now. Keep asking your questions. I'll give I don't know, Lucy, should I take questions now? Keep sending questions or thoughts or something to add. If you want to help, elaborate a point better, you can also do that. But that's it from me. I hope you've learned something, and I hope, it's something you can implement. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Charity. That was refreshing. I personally have taken notes, serious notes. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think there are a few questions on the chat. I can see I'm interested in learning on how to improve my fundraising strategies. That's a question from Mary. By the way, you can feel free and talk to us also. Because I feel like Charity already answered, but do you want to add something to that question?
How you can improve your fundraising strategy. One, as a strategist in, a fundraising agency, I can tell you that number one is try to learn as much as possible from other people. Read case studies, read articles. You can open up your mind to new ideas through that. Read reports from other sides of the world. You can see how, improve in integrating a digital wallet on your website goes a long way in collecting small donations compared to just putting your contact information. It's things like that gives you light bulbs. Read more. As we said, don't be generic at all. Try to understand where the other person, put yourself in their shoes, and that's a good starting point. For a fundraising strategy, and it's something I've not put here, but maybe we can cover it another day. Give someone an asset to work with. For example, as I said, it's very few people, maybe philanthropists, will give you money just for the sake of your own, maybe just for the sake of your own project. They just want to see you succeed in your project, but that's very few organizations. Most organizations want more because most of the time, especially corporates, they are commercial. So at the end of the day, this business unit head, for example, giving you money, or this manager giving you money, will have to defend it in their report in a few months. So give them something to work with. When you tell people, okay, please sponsor my golf events and the money will go to children. That's beautiful. Go an extra step, tell them you'll be able to showcase your products, you'll be able to, put up an activation desk. You'll be able, I'll put you on the thank you letters. I'll let people know about you on the post-event newsletter. It's things like this that go a long way. So think about it. I challenged you in the beginning to think about fundraising sometimes as a commercial business. What does partnerships, what are the traits that make business partnerships work? It's mutual beneficial relationships. So see what you're doing. As much as saving the children is important, see what they might need and see if you can offer it. If you can offer them something they need, the better. You'll get more out of them. Yeah, that's how I can answer.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Charity. It's good to hear from you because, you know, as nonprofits, we really think our ideas are very passionate. That's how we are. And we are very passionate about our ideas. We, at times, feel like everyone should just understand this idea. I mean, you should just come and help us. But like we were actually talking about it even yesterday, there has to be value for both, you know, both the donor as well as you as an organization, and you have to demonstrate that value. And I really appreciate that you have also, you know, put that across very clearly. And that is standard for corporates. I don't think there's any corporate that will give you if they do not see the benefit of them engaging. They have to kind of their marketing, their commercial, you have to in a way market their work. They have to see the value of investing. For them, it's an investment. It has to have some returns. So yeah, we have to be innovative. We have to think outside our box. If you are targeting the corporates, I think that's a must. But I like also the way you are challenging us to think like, think commercially. And I think that the reality is as nonprofits, we have been left behind a little bit in terms of, even marketing our work. But because the reality of fundraising, there's a lot of marketing. There's a lot of marketing in fundraising. If you're going to raise resources, you have to be out there. So we need to adopt some of the ideas that the corporates they're very much ahead of us, branding ourselves, being visible. It's not a common theme, and I understand why as nonprofits we are struggling because of how, our measures and all that as being very key. But I think we are all learning and we have to keep challenging ourselves. So thank you very much, Charity, for that. There's another question. As a new CBO, from Jamal, as a new CBO, what would be the best strategies to get and maintain first-time donors? I don't know whether Charity wants to comment, but like we have said, there are so many strategies. So I always tell you, first you have to look to put the basics. As a new CBO, set your systems first in place, and then there's not really standard answer to where you start because it depends so much on what you're doing. As a CBO, what is your focus? So you look, you sit down with your team and see what works depending on your audience, your target group, depending on your connections. Who do you know in the market, for example? But as a CBO, I really also want to encourage what we call, local resource mobilization. Before you may not be able to, you can, of course, also target the corporates, but you can also start very small at your level and look at those businesses around you. In that village, you can start something, especially if you've never received any donation. It's also hard for a big corporate or a big donor to fund you because they want donors fund organizations also with a bit of track record, and especially apart from corporates, especially the standard donors in the philanthropic world. They want to see your impact already. They want to see your track record, your data, and all that. So if you are starting, you've never received any funding, you just registered, you are pretty new, I would encourage you to start with your local resources, mobilize your community, the businesses around, ask for something, depending on their capacity, do a project, and then with that project, no matter how small it is, even if it's for feeding 10 children, then now you blow it out. You put it on your social media, you tell the story, you have the videos. So you start small, and then now you keep growing. And you see, the minute that you have something that you can show, then it's easier for you to now go to the next level, and maybe a corporate that is a bit bigger, and show them you have something to show what you have done. And then again, you have to have that connection, like we are saying, you have to show them the value and all that. So that is how I would answer that. Charity, do you have something to add?
Maybe I can add by saying, as I said, leverage the community around you. If you're a CBO in a certain estate or in a certain ward, that the people around you, even the people you share fences with, there's a small microfinance there, there's a small barbershop there. These are people who you would list as donors for your cause. And eventually these are the people who are going to help you go a long way in terms of getting your big donations in the future. That's what I can say. Also leverage the power of social media.
Perfect.
Get someone, the thing with CBO, the thing with a new nonprofit is it might lack credibility. Use your social connections, use your own personal connections to find someone who can give you credibility on a public space. For example, a business leader near you. For example, I don't know, your religious leader. These are the things that go far in terms of building credibility for a new community organization. Yeah, that's it from me.
Wow, that's a nice one. That's a very nice addition. I hope you hand that. Building credibility. Look for someone who can help you to build credibility for your organization. Another question is, how does one go about mobilizing or getting donors for community projects which are stalled due to lack of funds? So I think the question here is the project and started, but it has stalled because of lack of funds. Mary, do you want to expound so that we are very specific to your question? Okay, Charity, you can go ahead.
Yeah, and I think when a project stalls, I think the best thing is to do a post-mortem, as I like to call it. See what you are able to deliver from the project, even if it was for 1 month. See if there's any success story that you can run with. See if there's somewhere you can, if there's a way you can rethink the whole project. Maybe it's not timely anymore. For example, every year, and I believe every season there's something new in the air. If, for example, if it's in 2023 and I have a women-targeted nonprofit or a women-targeted project, and my project is stalling because of one reason or another, most of the time it's because it might feel irrelevant to the donors that you're talking to or that you usually would engage. So if it's 2023, for example, I'll find a way of putting a climate angle on that project. It's about being smart and trying to be flexible with how you see things. Maybe you started as, we are seeking, I don't know, we are helping women in small scale agriculture, do this and this and this. Maybe as you're rethinking the second phase and trying to look for more funds, you should start thinking about that small scale agriculture being about climate resilience or something. It's about how you present your ideas, and I hope that answers you.
I think that's an excellent idea. You need to look at the trends, like Charity has said. And what I have actually found very interesting in my career writing proposals is that it's so easy. Okay, it's not easy, but it's always possible to actually tweak your work to be able to integrate so many different concepts without getting out of your mission. You realize that, whatever is trending, like you've talked of climate change, almost every project can actually be able to integrate climate change in their work. I think it is just being innovative. And so I actually realized, well, no matter what mission that you have, it's actually very, very possible to be able to integrate different concepts, integrate climate change, like which is a very big thing right now. It's possible to integrate, if it's HIV, and this is a time that was a key thing. Gender equality is it's actually possible, and so that helps you to remain relevant and to also flow with what is there in the current trends without losing track of your mission. So thank you, Charity, for highlighting that.
Yeah.
Another
There's a comment
question
from Zungu that I think we can address. So initially, he talked about because one has to learn what the donor wants done rather than the needs on the ground. Should we sing the song of donors, or how do we work based on the needs of the local community? And then after our responses say, thanks for your comments, however, this makes us more addressing to the donor needs rather than community needs. Maybe I can answer this in my little way, because this is something that has come up even on very, very big tables discussing sponsorship. Discussing fundraising and nonprofits. And it's also something that came up at the East Africa Philanthropy Conference in Zanzibar like 2 months ago. And it was a very heated, discussion. Here is my 2 cents, and it's just my 2 cents. So the unfortunate truth is that most of the time the person with the money has the power, and those are the people who control trends and where the money goes and where the resources flows. But how I can challenge especially grassroots communities is, again, partnership and collaboration. The way you structure your community partnership, instead of approaching a donor as a money recipient or as a beneficiary, think about the point I made about co-creating a project. When you co-create, you own a part of the project, and it gives you a very consequential seat on the table. Secondly, and in such a way, you're able to give more, you come with the knowledge. As a co-creator, you come with knowledge. Secondly, I'd also encourage you to partner with your fellow grassroots organizations. There's strength in numbers, and if an agenda seems big enough, the money will follow. If no one is paying attention to the plight of widows, for example, it cannot just come from one organization. Find a way to make this agenda stronger by having a more collective voice with other organizations. That's how I see it, and that's my 2 cents. That's a good question. It's a hard one, and it's good food for thought, but
and I think, like you said,
challenges all of us. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you said you have correctly put it. It's a challenge to even international organizations, and the truth is also it makes at times the organizations to kind of focus on the money and focus so much on what the donor wants. And it's true, at times you can find yourself not really addressing your core, the community needs, or you really feel these are the community needs that should be of high priority, but then it is not within what the donor is interested in. And I think that's why we talk of also diversifying, like you have said, your resource base, so that this donor may be able to address one community need. And if they're not willing to expand to go beyond what they're interested in, then you may have to look for another donor who you can be able to work with. But definitely this is a conversation that has been there and remains there, because it's a tough one. It's a tough one. But I've also seen in the recent past, there are some programs that are coming up, which I remember it's called what? I think it's CINDA. I saw they have a program where they specifically allow a nonprofit to be flexible. So unlike in the normal way of doing things where the donor comes up with their request for proposals, they're very clear what you're going to do, what to respond to. So this program, I think it's new. It's a new concept. They ask you to just write a proposal based on the needs. I think the key thing is for you to justify. You must have done a very good assessment and justify the needs that you want, and they are very flexible. So I think that this conversation will eventually help the fundraising environment. I think things will shift with time, because it's true at times it's very difficult, or there is the need for more flexibility in the funding, so that we can allow especially the grassroots organizations to address the real community needs. So we hear you, Mzungu Ngoma. You are one of the very active members of this community. We appreciate that question. Yeah, so I think, not unless you have someone has any comment, but they feel free to participate. I think we all have a lot of experience. We can also contribute. You can unmute yourself actually and add to this conversation.
Yeah.
There's a question, I don't know if it's a question. I see something from Noli saying, throw more light on fundraising for a smaller organization that is also subcontracted by one member of a bigger consortium. So throw more light on fundraising for a smaller organization that is also subcontracted by one member of a bigger consortium. What key areas do I concentrate on as the smallest part of the team, yet playing a very key role? I'm not sure whether I get the question, but I see a situation where there's a consortium members, and we have a small organization, or maybe a smaller organization, let's not say small, it's much smaller. So we were working in a consortium with the big brothers, as we call them. And so you're wondering how to raise fundraising when for me, I see it as an advantage, because then you're able to leverage that consortium, the consortium members. In fact, yesterday we were saying at times what also works is as you are growing as a smaller organization, being subcontracted by the bigger organization, it really helps you also to raise your profile, because when they write their annual reports and everything and their newsletters, and they have all the muscles to do huge things, you somehow appear somewhere. So by itself, it's actually helping you to grow and to raise your profile. And as you do your report, you're also able to leverage on what you have been able to achieve as a team, with this big team that you are with. So Notanyesa, I don't get your question. Noli, feel free to unmute yourself and maybe share more. But Charity, do you have any addition?
No. Well, I think I've exhausted my knowledge and my English.
No, we appreciate you have done a lot. No,
yeah,
anyone want to comment on this?
Yeah, I'm seeing, a comment from Dennis. I've learned a lot and gotten some way forward on pertinent issues as far as fundraising concerned. Co-founder Youth for Green Action Kenya. Thank you, Dennis, and all the best with your projects. We are always reachable. We've dropped our contacts there in case you have any questions regarding this. We'll be free to talk. What can I do to get more exposure in charity organization? As I've been interested for a long time, but I have not had any opportunity. I'm assuming that this is someone trying to get work in a charity organization. I'm not sure how to answer that. I mean, a good starting point for getting into the industry is always with grant writing and proposal writing. If you can get your skills up in that regard, with the numerous courses that there are being offered, it's a skill. It's a skill that could always be needed, and there's a shortage of it. That would be my response. But other than that, thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
I look forward to our future engagements. That's it. That's my parting shot. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Charity. We really appreciate you. If we were in a forum where we could see each other and we could stand, we would all be clapping for you. And you remember those maua things that you used to do? I think they're still being done, but we really, and I think we can still do it, but now the problem, most people are off. But really, on behalf of everyone, we really want to appreciate you. Like I was saying, I've actually taken a lot of notes, and this is a conversation that we really want to continue. Like you can see, most of the people here, we are grassroots organizations, and I really feel these are the people who really need a lot of support. And so we appreciate charity, we appreciate Layer Services, we appreciate tuiFund. You have been there, you have shared a lot of practical insights. Yesterday I kept telling them today is the day for practical. I was just laying the foundations. And you have done exactly that, given us a lot of insights, practical ideas that we can, follow through, that things that we can actually implement. And I just want to challenge all of us to just, we may not be able to, implement everything, but we need to start from somewhere. So I want to believe we have taken notes. I was hoping I can actually do a summary of all the notes, everything that, Charity has shared. I have been talking a lot doing this work, but I realized, like I was saying yesterday, at times it's good to also hear from different people. We bring in different experiences. We say many times same things, but in different ways. And because of that, we connect with different people. You may wonder, why bring in someone else and I have that knowledge? But the reality is, someone will say something, but I may not connect with it. But when someone else has put it in its own language, then someone connects. So I hope by the end of it all, we have been able to learn something from this 2 days workshop. I really, really want to appreciate you and to thank you for your patience. Most of you were with us yesterday for 2 hours. Today we have taken another 2 hours, and I am very, very grateful. I think it has been a success. Now take just 15 minutes of your time, just take you through some of the products that we have. And as I say, I ask this with a lot of humility, that you allow me to share with you just what we do. And it's for purposes of really seeing where we can connect with you, how we can work together, how I can serve you better. So I ask for 10 minutes of your time. I noted yesterday I shared this, but I did not share my screen. For some reason, I thought I was sharing. So allow me to just go through this very fast. So like I was saying, as Real-Time Insights, we have 4 main products. We have the Unlock Your Fundraising Potential, which is basically what we were trying to do for these 2 days. It's a summary of what we do. So Unlock Your Fundraising Potential is a program that I really hope that brings fundraisers together and founders, and especially from the grassroots. I'm very passionate about grassroots organizations, for us to work together. When we say, for example, we want our communication strategies to improve our communication strategies, or we want to have personalized communication with our donors, what exactly does that mean? Can we be able to draft that message and actually say, tomorrow all of us are posting this? So I am hoping that we can have, it's a 6 weeks program where we are practical. Of course, every week we have a theme of what we are going to do. So we learn and then we go practically and do some things practically. And my hope is that by the end of those 6-7 weeks, we are able to have at least, implemented some of these strategies. And if possible, we will set our goals, we will set our action plans, again, depending on our levels, because we are different. So it's more personalized, and we'll be able to work with you the journey of fundraising and helping you to improve your fundraising structures. We have the second product, which we call the Right Award-winning proposals. I think you know about it. It has been there in the market. It's still available for those who are interested. We welcome you. We have a product we call One-on-One with Lucy Joy. This is a product that came up out of need. Many of you call me wanting to talk to consult, with you, with your boards, and so the whole idea is to really understand your organization, to diagnose your organization needs, and to give you some practical ideas. So if you are not able to work with us for the 6 months, for the 6 weeks, then we can have a session which is one-on-one. And yesterday we had one person who was actually even telling us, voluntarily was sharing with the rest of the members of how this has helped them in their fundraising journey. So it's a way, I know I've been doing it actually for a long time, but it's a way of really reaching out to you and trying to tailor make the responses to your needs by having a conversation to understand the organization and to give you ideas of how you can move forward. So this is just a short kind of a conversation. And lastly, we have our tailor-made products for organizations, for nonprofits. As you know me, I'm a grant proposal writer. If you have you need a proposal written, we come in. If you need training, we can do tailor-made services for you depending on your needs. But I just want to share with you more about this particular program. The program, the Unlock Your Fundraising Potential, it has 6 modules. And basically, I've introduced all these modules in the course of these 2 days. Most of it I did yesterday. We had the mind shifts, because one of the reasons that we are not successful at times in whatever we are doing is because of the beliefs that we have about ourselves. So we want to tweak our mind shifts and have strong beliefs within our organization, not just us alone, but the whole organization, having the right mind shifts. Then we want to also prepare the necessary tools that we need for our fundraising. For you to fundraise, you must know exactly what is your cause, what is your mission, what do you want to achieve, where are you going to, what is your direction. You need to have a clear roadmap, and that is something that we would want to work with you to give you a clear roadmap of your fundraising strategy. Then be able to help us to work together to identify the donors and qualify them. Like we have said, you have to, take some time to really see who do you approach, and then how do you approach them? How do you build relationships with them that will be covered under module 4, and not just how, it's initiating. So when we say this week, we are going to initiate maybe a meeting, a connection with this donor, then we do it practically. We make the ask in module 5, and in module C, we see how to maintain our donors. And of course, during you to join me in this journey. I hope you can hear me. I can see my internet is not very stable. I hope you can hear me. So these are the expected outcomes, like I have said. By the end of the 6 weeks of working with us, at the end of the 6 weeks, I can assure you, you're going to have a very different mindset. Right now I see people stuck. Where do I start? What is even fundraising? You feel like you are lost, totally lost in your fundraising journey. So we want to really get you moving. So join us, we adopt the right mindsets, we document your case for support. You see it clearly that even when someone wakes you up at night, you can say what is it that you want to do and how you're going to do it. We map out donors. We create donor databases with clear communication strategies, and we hope that, we need by the end of 6 weeks, you will initiate at least one new fundraising strategy. You'll try something that you have not tried before, and we'll be there to support you. And of course, the other thing is that we will help you to also have a clear donor acceptance policy, which is a key document that you need to have as a nonprofit. And lastly, we are going to work with you. Of course, you have to do the work to ensure that at least by the end of 6 months, we are challenging ourselves to make sure that we have raised some funds. Because the minute you raise funds, then you know that it is possible. And that is what I want to kind of kickstart in you, especially those who are saying they have no idea where to start. Come, we'll see where to start. If you have been in that journey and you're feeling stuck, we'll figure it out together. So I encourage all of you to start, to join us. And if for no other reason, one of the key reasons, if you don't have any other reason to join us because this is going to be an accountability system. We know so much of what we should do, but in many cases, we do not do it. And that's a very normal thing to everyone, to every human being. We want to hold each other accountable to implement what we know we should be implementing. We want to learn from one another. You've seen how rich it is when we come together, bring different players, there are so many people that we can actually listen to, get speakers, bring them. They come inspire us, give us insights, give us ideas, and then we say, okay, we want to follow these, and then implement it together. So it's a program that is going to help us to move. For sure, I am definite to help you to move from point A to point B. It's a coaching program, and that means you have to do the work. It's not for someone who wants to miracles, so you must be willing to work. but I will be there every week to support you, to work with you, and to figure it out together. And of course, it's an investment, like you all know. It's an investment. These are usually the normal rates that I charge. The value is just based on what is in the market, but I want us to focus on how much it is for this particular month, for the month of August. So for the Unlock Your Fundraising Potential, the 6 weeks program, learning program, but it's not, it's 6 weeks, yes, with 6 weeks, but once it become part of my community, you remain part of the community, and any opportunities coming, you'll always be part of it. So it's like a long life, journey. We hope it can go for as long as possible, but this program will be costing it at $14,999, $149 US. So yeah, and this is an offer for this month. So I would really want to encourage you to take advantage. For those who want to have a one-on-one conversation with me, the cost for this month is going to be $2,000. And I'll be sharing more details around this. And I just want to mention this because this is one program that I know I have done for a long time and has had a lot of impact. Of life. The reason why I'm chanting, because I know I've been doing it for so many of you for free, is to just help me also to be able to serve you better and to also be accountable, to be more structured. So I want it to be a structured session where we diagnose the problem, we come up with solutions, and we also commit, and I'm also able to do some follow-up. We said when you invest money, you do it, you feel the pain. So like I was sharing yesterday, most of the people I have given my services for free, whether it's proposal writing, whether it's conversation, not all of them, but 50% never do anything about that course. In fact, 50% never opened that course, despite having given them the key, everything. So I really want to work with a team that is committed, that is willing, and that is willing also to invest. As you know, everything is an investment. I also have to invest a lot to be able to maintain the standards and to give you the right information, to be able to bring in different people to work with us and to help us to grow as a community. So I just want to challenge you. The knowledge industry is what is going to take us to the next level. And I think you know that by now. It's becoming a currency, gaining new skills. Right now, if you don't have the AI skills, well, you don't have to be an expert, but at least you need to know basics. Otherwise, you'll be out of the market very soon. And talking about that, actually, we'll be doing a session on that. This is also going to be free, or sharing a video, but I also want to share with you more about how you can actually leverage AI in your day-to-day work. Like I said, I actually have found myself, I'm still learning, but I found it very helpful in your day-to-day work, even in responding to simple emails. It's your virtual assistant. So I want also to challenge you. And I hope when I run that session, you'll be able to join me. We learn together, we share ideas. So yes, so that was talking about the one-on-one with Lucy. The course for fundraising, for writing proposals is also very much available online. This is usually a self-paced program. You buy, you log in online, you do at your own pace. Once you log in, then you have direct contact with me for any support that you need, but it's self-paced. And like what I'm introducing now, which is more of a coaching program, which is we meet not physically, but virtually, like we are meeting today, but then it's a small group. It's for us to share and to work together throughout the journey. I hope we are together, and if you're feeling me, you can just say yes on the chat. For this month, again, I have decided to basically give out the two courses at the same price. Yesterday, it was actually $199 USD. I'm changing that. Sorry, I didn't even change here, just change the Kenya shillings. But basically, if you buy my Unlock for Fundraising Potential program, you get the Write Award-winning Proposals course for free. I think that's the best I can do. And I really want us to, yesterday I was sharing my vision and my mission. My mission is to see how, as grassroots organizations, we can be so powerful. We can form a very powerful movement, because I really believe this is the future for us to address our problems. We can create a society that is, you know, and has a culture of giving or supporting, so that we're also not struggling to go outside and talk to external foundations. We can raise resources actually within our country, in our communities. And so I really hope that you'll be able to join me. I wish I could make everything for free, but it's really not possible. But again, it's important that we invest in our development. So I'm just welcoming you to my community. We work together. We build our nonprofits because we are the future of this country. If you are going to address our community needs, you can see like when I was doing my course, for those I was sharing with, when I was pursuing to be certified as a fundraising executive. Unfortunately, in Kenya, we do not even have such a profession body. So most of my learning is really based on the US environment, which is a good thing. It was an eye-opening. There are a lot of things I learned, but it was just amusing to see how strong their grassroots organizations are, how they have many funding opportunities. And I believe we can get there as nonprofits, as a country. There's a lot that we can do. And of course, that starts with us. So I really want to encourage you to join me. I don't want to preach. And now I think I'm becoming, yeah, let me end it there by saying that also, in addition to getting the course for writing proposals, I'll be giving out my book to every person who takes this offer the book on basics of fundraising, as well as if you buy, of course, the course, consultation with me is free. You'll not be paying for consultation. So this offer expires on the end of September, and we start classes on 5th September. And I am really, really, really looking forward to working with you and moving this agenda. And as I achieve my mission, you achieve your mission. Once we all achieve our missions, then we move forward and we make our country a better place. So thank you very much. Yeah, for those who are already ready to start off with me, that is can directly send the money to that number. You can contact me on WhatsApp. I think I'll share it's the same number anyway. Then we can move from there. We can plan from there. So, and with that, I want to bring this to an end. I think it's already 7 o'clock. It's 4 minutes to 7. So I can quickly, yes, any question, any clarifications, any remarks, I will be happy. Thank you so much. I can see a lot of claps on the chat. I really appreciate you. I feel you. I thank you. I look forward to working with you. My class starting September. Please do not procrastinate. Just make a decision. Call me. We have a plan. We start off. We move forward. When you sleep over, you start rethinking. I know we have many things to do, but I just want to encourage you. You'll not regret this offer. So thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.